Point Park Track and Field wins RSC Indoor Championships. The Point Park Cheer competed in the WHAC Championship, and the competitive dance team competed in the NAIA Southeast Regionals.
Men's and women's basketball finish off their season and celebrate their seniors. The Penguins had a few games this past week, and the MLB is still in lockdown as the NBA All-Star Weekend concludes. It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline.
The Point Park men and women's track and field team traveled to Logan, Ohio for the 2022 River States Conference Championships this past Saturday. Both teams racked up points and took first place overall. The men's team had a total of 242 points, and the women's team had a total of 201 points. Starting with the men's side, sophomore Damir Steven Stewart got a total of 36 points and received the RSC Men's Indoor Track Athlete of the Year. In the long jump, he set a meet record jumping 6.95 meters and got a personal record in the 60-meter dash, qualifying again for the NAIA Nationals with a time of 6.89. Sophomore Collins Ezzie got a total of 25 points and earned the title of RSC Men's Indoor Field Athlete of the Year. In the 400-meter dash, Point Park placed in the top 3 of the event. Placing first was freshman Steve Bradley with a 51.09. Placing second was Damir Lomax with a 51.23. And placing third was Juan Barrera with a 51.53. Moving on to the distance side, a few pioneers placed in the 600-meter dash. Placing first was Isaiah White, and placing third was Toby Wright. In the 1,000-meter race, Yannick Windelban, Logan Gonzalez, Doug Kostelansky, and Devin Carter all placed and got a total of 20 points.
Now on to the women's team. The Pioneers won their 5th RSC Indoor Championship. Senior Alyssa Campbell received the RSC Women's Indoor Track Athlete of the Year on Saturday. Campbell placed first in the 800 and 3,000 meter. Another award winner was junior Sophia Jabozi, who received the RSC Women's Indoor Field Athlete of the Year. She placed first in the triple jump and in the long jump, and weight throw took second place. Leading in the way in the high jump was freshman Emma Pavlik, clearing 1.67 meters, securing the new championship record. Placing first in the 60-meter hurdles finals was senior Nia Goodman with 9.54. Placing first in the 4x800-meter relay was Allie Palacio, Corinne Lee Hauser, Alyssa Ferasto, and Alyssa Campbell with a time of 10.18. In the 4x400-meter relay, placing third was Hannah Bond, Emma Pavlik, Lexi Langdon, and Natalia Hillen with a time of 4.22 seconds. Congrats to both teams for bringing the championships win to Point Park. The Pioneers will be training the next few weeks for their first outdoor meet on March 18th. At the Stan Romanowski Open at WVU Milan Park.
Switching gears to cheer and dance. Point Park's competitive cheer team competed in the WHAC Championship, and competitive dance team competed in the NAIA Southeast Regionals this past weekend. Starting off with cheer, the Pioneers placed 7th out of 8 teams with a total score of 63-28. The dance team competed at Miami Gardens in Florida. In the competition, they placed 2nd out of 11 teams with a score of 83.2. Last year, they were also runner-ups, and in 2020 were regional champions. Congrats to both teams. After the break, we hear from Joey about how Point Park basketball finished off their season. And me.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, and welcome back to Newsnight. Of the student body of the Pittsburgh Public Schools.
Some of the United States allies.
Thursday, the FBI was seen rating.
Let's get started with today's forecast.
Today's high will only reach about 31 degrees.
It's looking a little cooler than we've seen in the past few weeks.
All this and more.
All this and more. All this and more coming up on Newsnight.
Coming up on Newsnight.
Coming up on Newsnight.
Park basketball had 2 games this week, and to give us a recap on the women's team, I'm going to send it to Joey.
This week in women's basketball, the girls played against Carlo on Thursday, and what a performance. Michelle Burns led the way with 28 points and Taylor Wrinn with 12 rebounds. Michelle Burns hit a three-pointer just 30 seconds into the game to go over 1,800 total points. She was 7 for 12 from range and now has 1,827 total points on her career. Taylor Wrinn was 10 for 15 from the field and 7 for 8 for free throws. Carly Lutz finished the game with 10 rebounds and 4 blocks. The girls were up 43-20 at the half and beat Carlo in style, winning 81-58. In the girls' last game of the season, in need of a win to make playoffs, what a close game it was against IU East as they secured the win 75-70. Saturday was the girls' senior night, recognizing seniors Michelle Burns, Carly Lutz, and Sierra Dawson. Taylor Wrinn recorded 22 total rebounds, and Michelle Burns scored 21 points in her final game, taking her point total to 1,848 in her career. Since the start of last year, she put up 657 points in just 33 games to cement her name at 3rd place for all-time scoring for Point Park's women's basketball. Burns also broke her own team record for three-pointers in a season, putting up 4 on Saturday. Her previous record was 81, and she had 84 this season. Burns goes down in Point Park history as 3rd in all-time scoring, 1st in assists, and 1st in three-pointers. Congrats to the seniors, and what a season the girls had this year.
As for the men's team, they also played Carlo on Thursday, and what a win for them. They beat the Celtics 95-63 with Jessie Calloway's career-high 30 points and 4 of the starters in the double digits. Calloway scored 15 in each half, passing his previous career high of 23. He was 7 for 10 from 3, and while Carlo closed the gap with 4 minutes remaining, Calloway piled on 3 more trays to keep the lead. Nate Van had 19 total points, with his early three-pointer giving the team to a big lead. The team kept the lead to 20 or more points throughout the rest of the game. On to Saturday's senior day game. The team honored now assistant coach Kyle Carrington and Jessie Calloway before the game. Sharon Shafino led the team with 25 total points and surpassed the 1,000-point milestone. After 14 minutes of the play, the score was tied 26-26, with all 5 starters getting involved. The boys would not go down without a fight on senior day, shooting 50% from the field in the final 20 minutes and were 7 for 15 from the arc. Nate Van and Eddie Floor were both in the double digits for scoring with 15 and 11 points respectively. With the final score coming to 94-72, IU East, the boys' season comes to an end, and what a year it was. Congrats to the seniors and the rest of the team on a great season. Up next, we hear from Jacob Kubik about the Penguins games over the past week. Don't go anywhere.
The Penguins celebrate a milestone and the Steelers bring in a new hire. To update us on how they did in all things Pittsburgh sports, we bring in Jacob Kubik. Jacob?
Thanks, Joey. The top directors in Hollywood couldn't have written a better script than the script the Penguins wrote last Tuesday night. The set was PPG Paints Arena and the actors were bitter rivals, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers. Sidney Crosby sat at 499 career goals entering the game, looking to hit the milestone of 500 career goals. At the end of the first period, on a power play, the puck found its way onto Crosby's stick, and he put it past Flyers goaltender Carter Hart. Crosby becomes the second active player to hit 500 goals in the game today. The Penguins did find themselves trailing in the third period by a score of 4-2 with 8 minutes in the third. But 2 goals in 18 seconds tied the game at 4, and Chris Letang scored in overtime to seal the rally win and cap off a historic night by a final score of 5-4. The next action for the Penguins was in Toronto to battle the Maple Leafs on Thursday night. Star forward Austin Matthews put the Leafs up 21 seconds into the game, and the Penguins couldn't tie the game back up, losing by a final score of 4-1. Sunday afternoon was a matchup for first place in the Metropolitan Division and what could potentially be a playoff series preview between the Pens and the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes jumped out to a 2-0 lead, but the Penguins refused to give up and tied the game at 2-2 at the end of the second period. Carolina scored 2 goals in the third to jump to a 4-2 lead, and while the Penguins scored a late goal, it was not enough, and the Penguins fell by a final score of 4-3. The Penguins are back in action Thursday night at home against the New Jersey Devils and Saturday afternoon against the New York Rangers. Finally, in Steelers news, the team announced that this weekend they are hiring ex-Dolphins head coach Brian Flores as a senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach. Now, on to national news. Major League Baseball announced late last week that the first spring training games will be postponed to March 5th after no progress has been made in CBA discussions between the team owners and the Players Association. It remains unclear how close the two sides are to reaching an agreement, but this postponement of games is not a good sign for the regular season to start on time. In NBA news, the Stars were out in Cleveland, Ohio for the 2022 All-Star Game. The NBA is in its 75th season, and the league's top 75 stars were honored at halftime of the game. Stars like Kobe, Kareem, Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Chamberlain, Shaq, Magic, LeBron, and Curry, just to name a few. In terms of the game, it is played until one team hits 163 total points with an untimed fourth quarter. Team LeBron took the win with a final score of 163-160, with Steph Curry hitting 16 threes on his way to a 50-point performance and Giannis scoring 30 points. Regular season play resumes this Thursday. Jumping to college basketball, Michigan head coach Juwan Howard has been suspended 5 games for striking a Wisconsin coach after the game on Sunday in the handshake line. Howard's actions nearly started a brawl on the floor between opposing players and staff members. Howard thought that a late timeout by Wisconsin was a little insulting. Howard said, quote, "I didn't like the timeout they called. I'll be totally honest. I thought it was not necessary at that moment, especially with it being a large lead. I thought that wasn't fair for our guys." Howard's suspension will last through the remainder of the regular season, meaning the next game he will be eligible to coach in is the first round of the Big Ten tournament, starting March 9th. Back to you, Nat and Joey.
Thanks, Jacob. Coming up next, we talk about the MLB lockdown and some preseason predictions. Stay tuned.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, and welcome back to Newsnight. Most of the student body of the Pittsburgh Public School.
Some of the United States allies.
Thursday, the FBI was seen raiding.
Let's get started with today's forecast.
Today's high will only reach about 31 degrees.
It's looking a little cooler than we've seen in the past few weeks.
All this and more
All this and more
All this and more coming up on Newsnight.
coming up on Newsnight.
coming up on Newsnight.
Welcome back. This week we're talking about the MLB lockdown that's happening and our Pirates preseason predictions. I'm joined by Jacob and Joey, and I'm going to hear their thoughts today. So this MLB lockdown started in December, and we still have not come to terms. They have not, made any negotiations yet. There's been a whole bunch of stuff going on with the owners and the players, and we're still going to have to see what's going on. They're meeting in Jupiter, Florida this week. They met yesterday. They met again today. They're going to keep meeting every day this week to discuss. Jacob, what do you think about the whole situation?
I think this whole situation's kind of bad for baseball, if you ask me, because right now it's kind of pushing back the start of the spring training and the regular season. So right now the earliest they can start to practice spring training and play games is March 5th. So I think right now it's just kind of like damaging morale with the fans because all they really want to see is baseball. And while it's understandable what the players' organization and the owners are fighting for, it just kind of makes the fans a little more angry because they just want to see some baseball.
Yeah, I understand both sides of it. Joey, what do you think?
I agree with Jacob. It's hard as a fan because once I heard the news that the league was in lockdown, I was upset because I really would like to see baseball. We talked about it possibly not starting until after March and after April. But, like you mentioned, they're meeting every day this week. The only thing they've come to terms with is a universal DH. I'm not too excited about that, but, if it's getting us somewhere to, closer to baseball season, then I guess that's okay.
I'm really hoping they can come with some type of mutual agreement just so the fans can start getting ready for baseball season because just like you guys said, it's kind of daunting on us. We have to wait and we have to see what's going on. So it's kind of frustrating as fans. Joey, what do you think about the minor league team and them not getting enough money?
So I understand both sides. I understand that the players think that the minor league players deserve more money, and I completely agree. I saw something that it was their average salaries between $8,000 and $14,000. Obviously, that's not enough money to live on, especially for a whole year. You're traveling at however many days during the year. You maybe have 3 or 4 games in a row a week. That's tiring, and obviously that money isn't going to be worth it, and obviously you're pushing to get to that pro spot, but I think they deserve more money, but I also understand where the owners are coming from. It's been hard to, give people money. The last 2 years have been COVID years. It's not been easy, and then on top of that, players in the MLB are getting 10-year, 12-year, $300 million contracts, so, it's hard for both parties. I understand where both of them are coming from, but I think they deserve more money.
So I know obviously the minor league is under the major league team. Jacob, do you think that's part of the reason why the owners don't want to give them more money is because they're not in the major leagues yet?
I can understand that's why the players are fighting for them. I don't know if that's necessarily why the owners aren't giving them money, but my biggest, if you start giving the minor players more money, they're already giving the major league players a lot, and right now they don't have as big a market like the minor league teams as the major league teams do. You're not really going to watch the New York Yankees minor league affiliate, you're going to watch the New York Yankees. So my thing about it is if you pay the money, that's great for the minor leaguers, but then where do you kind of draw the line? Because if they're getting paid more in the minor leagues, then it's kind of you're going to have to start paying the major league players even more than what they're making right now. So it's a very interesting discussion, and I can understand why they're fighting for it, but it's almost where do you stop and where do you draw the line?
Also, to build off of that, it's just an issue because they still have to pay stadium fees, they still have to pay, stadium workers. They all have, I'm not sure if it's a salary or not, but they still have to pay that. They have to pay all the fees. I'm sure they have to pay taxes for, the space that they have for the stadium. Yep. So, I understand that it's hard, but, come on, that's not enough money.
Yeah.
And Yankee Stadium can maybe draw, I think, 50,000. I don't even know if the single A affiliate of the Yankees is even going to draw 5,000, just because it's just it's a single A affiliate and it's not in New York. So it's interesting.
There's definitely 2 different markets. I think that has a big reason for it. All right, we're going to move to the Pirates preseason predictions. Jacob, what do you think about the Pirates and how they're going to be doing?
My thing about the Pirates is it seems like they always start the season well. They always start April kind of good. It's usually May and June is their top months of the year, and then it's kind of once you hit the All-Star break, they start to take a dip. So I think if the Pirates want to be successful, maybe not a playoff team, but if they want to be successful this year, they have to start good, and they kind of have to just stay steady. Because if they take a nosedive in the standings, then it's not going to be a good result to the season.
Yeah. Joey?
The Pirates are projected 17th this year. I don't know how I feel about that, especially after the year we just had. We have a really tough schedule this year, in my opinion. I mean, the Cardinals were a pretty unstoppable team. They went toe-to-toe with the Dodgers last year, and the Dodgers won the World Series. But, I mean, we play the Dodgers, we play the Padres, we play the Yankees 4 times this year. I mean, those games could go either way. But, I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. I think our pitching staff, might get something done. We have a universal DH like we were talking about earlier, so that might help us out. But, other than that, I just want to win. I just want to see the Pirates win.
Don't forget the Dodgers won 2 years ago. Last year the Braves
Oh,
won.
yeah, sorry. The Braves won last year.
Yep. And just wanted to make that clear.
Well, I'm really hoping the Pirates have a good season. Obviously, I'm biased, but the spring training will start no earlier than March 5th, so we're going to have to wait and see how the MLB lockdown is going to be not lockdown. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer sideline.